The moment the church doors opened, everyone turned their heads in awe. The bride, Claire, stood there glowing in a gown so delicately white it seemed to hold the morning light itself. Her hands trembled slightly, clutching the bouquet, her heart pounding not out of fear but of love. Deep, unshakable love for the man waiting at the altar. The air carried the scent of lilies and polished wood, the soft hum of the piano echoing through the sacred space. But what no one knew, not even Claire herself, was that this day, meant to be the happiest of her life, would turn into a moment that would test her strength, dignity, and heart in a way she never imagined. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep creating stories that touch your soul and remind us all that love can heal even the deepest wounds. From the very beginning, Claire and Nathan's relationship had seemed like a fairy tale. They met at a charity gala 2 years ago, both there for reasons that said much about who they were. She helping organize the event for a children's hospital, and he donating generously from his successful architecture firm. Nathan was charming, confident, and magnetic. He had the kind of presence that filled a room. Claire, on the other hand, was calm, compassionate, and quietly beautiful. The kind of woman who made everyone around her feel seen and valued. When Nathan approached her that night, their connection felt instant, like something out of a movie. Over the months that followed, Nathan swept her off her feet. Candlelit dinners, handwritten notes, spontaneous weekend getaways, it all felt perfect. Claire believed she had found the kind of love her parents had always prayed she'd one day find. But what she didn't know was that Nathan's perfection was, in many ways, an illusion. Beneath the charm and composure, there were cracks, small but sharp, ones that showed in how he spoke when things didn't go his way, or the way his tone shifted from warmth to coldness when he felt out of control. Claire noticed them but brushed them aside, convincing herself that love was about patience, understanding, and loyalty. As the wedding day approached, everyone called them the perfect couple. The guests whispered about how lucky Claire was, and Nathan basked in that attention. Yet, that morning, as she sat before the mirror, watching her reflection in her bridal gown, something strange stirred in her chest. A quiet unease, a feeling that something was off. She prayed, pressing her trembling hands together, whispering to God to let everything go right, to make this day a beautiful beginning. The ceremony began beautifully. The music swelled as Claire walked down the aisle, her eyes locked on Nathan. His smile, however, wasn't the one she'd expected. It was forced, tight, almost calculating. Still, she told herself it was nerves. The vows began, heartfelt and sincere, and when it came time for Nathan to speak his, he cleared his throat, looked at her, and said words that would freeze the air in the church. "Claire," he began, his tone sharp with a trace of sarcasm, "I can't believe we're actually here. Honestly, when we first met, I never imagined I'd marry someone like you." The guests chuckled awkwardly, assuming it was a joke. But Nathan continued, "You've always been different, simple, emotional, always too sensitive about everything. I used to think it was sweet, but sometimes it's just exhausting." Murmurs spread through the pews. Claire stood frozen, her bouquet trembling in her hands. He went on, each word like a dagger. "But maybe that's what love is, putting up with imperfections. And since everyone seems to think we're perfect together, I guess I'll play along." There was a sharp silence. The priest looked uncomfortable. Claire's heart cracked, not because of the insult itself, but because she saw no love in his eyes, only pride. He wasn't nervous. He was mocking her. In that moment, her world, built so carefully around his promises, collapsed. The people she loved were watching, gasping, whispering. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Something inside her shifted. Nathan smirked, waiting for her to laugh it off, to continue pretending, but she didn't. Claire took a slow breath, feeling the weight of the silence pressing down. Then, she looked him straight in the eyes, calm but resolute. "You're right, Nathan," she said softly, voice trembling yet clear. "I am sensitive, I feel deeply, and I love sincerely. But what you call imperfections are the things that make me human, the things that make me capable of real love." The crowd stirred. Nathan blinked, unsure how to respond. Claire continued, her words growing stronger with each breath. You don't need to marry me out of expectation or pride. I wanted to build a life with a man who values my heart, not mocks it. I can't say my vows to someone who thinks kindness is weakness. Gasps filled the church. Nathan's smirk faded, replaced by disbelief. Claire gently handed her bouquet to her maid of honor, lifted her gown, and walked down the aisle, slowly, gracefully, with tears glistening but a quiet strength radiating from her. The pianist, unsure what to do, let the last note hang in the air like a sigh. Outside, the sunlight was blinding. Claire stood on the church steps, her heart aching but her soul strangely light. The whispers from inside echoed faintly, but she didn't care. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't living for appearances or for what others thought. She was living for truth. Her mother rushed out, eyes wide with concern, but when she saw the calm on Claire's face, she simply embraced her daughter. No words were needed. In the days that followed, the story spread like wildfire. People debated, judged, speculated. Some said she humiliated Nathan. Others called her brave. But for Claire, none of that mattered. She returned to her quiet apartment, packed away the wedding photos, and began to rebuild her life piece by piece. The silence of her home felt heavy at first, but then it became sacred. A place for healing, for rediscovering who she was before love had made her forget her worth. Weeks turned into months. Claire found solace in her work, in volunteering again, in painting, the hobby she had given up because Nathan found it a waste of time. Slowly, color returned to her world. Her laugh, once timid, became freer. And though she still carried the ache of that day, it no longer defined her. One rainy afternoon, she received an envelope in the mail. It was from Nathan. The letter inside was short, almost hesitant. He wrote that he hadn't realized how much damage his pride had caused, that he'd been caught up in how he looked to the world, instead of how he treated the one person who truly cared for him. He apologized, saying he had been cruel out of insecurity. Claire read it quietly, tears falling again, but this time they weren't of pain but release. She didn't reply, she simply forgave him in her heart and placed the letter in a drawer, closing that chapter for good. Months later, at another charity event, the same place where she had first met Nathan, Claire crossed paths with a man named Carter, a teacher who worked with underprivileged kids. He wasn't flashy or smooth, but his smile was genuine, and his eyes held warmth, not judgment. They spoke for hours about art, kindness, and second chances. Carter listened when she spoke, not to respond, but to understand. It felt different, real, unforced, healing. As they began seeing each other, Claire realized something profound. Love doesn't always arrive wrapped in grand gestures or perfection. Sometimes, it comes softly, with patience and respect, in the quiet assurance that you are enough as you are. She learned that being kind doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, that forgiveness doesn't mean returning to pain, and that walking away isn't weakness, it's courage. 1 year later, Claire stood in another church, watching as her best friend married the love of her life. The same kind of church that once witnessed her heartbreak now felt like a place of peace. As she helped fix the bride's veil, she smiled, realizing how far she had come. She wasn't bitter, she was grateful, because that painful day hadn't destroyed her, it had refined her. It had taught her to value herself, to trust her instincts, and to never settle for a love that made her feel small. After the ceremony, as the guests laughed and celebrated, Claire stepped outside, looking up at the evening sky painted in hues of gold and lavender. She whispered a quiet prayer, not for revenge or regret, but for gratitude. She thanked God for the strength to stand tall when her world fell apart, and for giving her the wisdom to see that self-respect is the purest form of love. And as she turned back to join the celebration, Carter appeared at her side, offering his hand with that same gentle smile. "You okay?" he asked. Claire nodded, eyes shining. "More than okay," she said, and for the first time in her life, she truly meant it. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It means the world to us and helps spread more stories that remind people of courage, self-worth, and healing. Before you go, tell us in the comments, What would you have done if you were in Claire's place that day? Your thoughts might inspire someone else who needs courage right now. Because sometimes, walking away from what breaks you is the bravest way to walk toward what heals you.